The Acolyte is a prequel show taking place 100 years after the events of the High Republic book series. Yet there is no mention of the Nihil, nor a whisper of those Lovecraftian Cthulhu monsters known simply as the Nameless. This would come as a surprise for anyone who reads the series, considering how much death and destruction and change the Nihil wrought upon the galaxy. The Nihil was a galaxy-spanning cult, a militaristic faction that terrorized the idealistic Republic. At first, they were a scattered force among the Outer Rim colonies, but that quickly devolved into a drawn-out feud that is a couple of centuries old rather than a couple of years. One safeguard the Republic had were its Jedi Knights, and the entirety of the Order during the High Republic era, where they were at the cream of the crop. Their Force abilities, distinctive beliefs, and most importantly tolerance over the unknown, make the prequel Jedi pale in comparison. Yet despite their strengths and a fresh set of enemies, the High Republic era goes from start to finish at the same time as the Sith remain in hiding. At the time, the Republic was united, but peacetime was too often punctuated by war. Most notably, the Nihil Wars. It's possible the leader of these marauders was manipulated by a Sith Lord to attack the Republic and their Jedi safeguards. Perhaps the Sith were trying to test the Republic's strength, or, like Palpatine, would perfect this during the Clone Wars, positioning the Jedi Order into a hypocritical stance where they could not ignore the suffering without taking up lightsabers and bashing away. If they used the Nihil as proxies, they could reap bloodshed against their hated nemeses. Secrecy gave these villains the impunity to inflict pain on a bolstered institution, but to stay hidden for generations meant the Sith had to operate without their more showier tendencies to maintain the ruse. Proxies are not unusual for the Baneite Sith line. Darth Plagueis used the alter ego of Hugo Damask to play on capitalistic megacorporations like the banking clan. Sidious used Count Dooku to instill separatism in the hearts and minds of many who felt the Republic had abandoned them, which dragged the Jedi into the trap that was the Clone Wars. Even Chimere, the Stranger, used May and Osha, survivors of the Jedi's calamitous investigation on Brendok, for his own ends. While Chimere may not be involved in the tragedy, he certainly profits from the Jedi's misguided efforts, leading to two traumatized girls into his predatory wing. Speaking of Brendok, the planet should have been devastated by the Great Disaster, a pivotal event during the novel Light of the Jedi when saboteurs broke apart a cargo vessel mid-hyperspace. The Nihil would then wield the debris as projectiles that became known as Emergences. These terror attacks can be comparable to the asteroid shockwave that killed the Earth's dinosaurs over 65 million years ago. A century later, investigators are stunned to find what should be a broken environment is yet teeming with life. Instead, there are Force witches who can manipulate life in a place that should be lifeless, something that would intrigue the Sith, considering they long to extend their own lifespans, like the Sith of old. This has been done through essence transfer, a ritual of the darkest of arts, where the soul of one body can possess another as their host. Sith Lords from the Legends continuity have a precedent for this. Whether the Sith affiliate with the Nihil or the Force Witches has yet to be revealed as of the release of this video. The High Republic book series remains an ongoing, and the Acolyte remains a mystery with but one season of television. What happens to the Nihil? Moreover, what happens to the Nameless, who are a perfect weapon to combat the Jedi? One thing's for certain, though. Whether the Sith need to involve themselves in the Nihil Wars does not matter because they still profit from them. High Republic Jedi are a rich tapestry, so bit by bit, the best move any secret Sith could make would to figure out which threads to pull. A Nihil absentee show like the Acolyte demonstrates those who fraying on edges within the Jedi Order. And when an organization is under attack for so long, there are, shall we say, hard-headed leaders that come to fore, strict believers like Mace Windu and Vernestra Rwoh, but their commitment creates a counterbalance of the young within their charge, the unlearned, the passionate, and the rebellious. This leads back to Darth Bane and his trilogy of books penned by Drew Karpyshyn. One would argue that being a Legends continuity source does not mean it works against the current canon, despite creating the rule of two that dictates how the Sith should conduct their war against the Jedi. Bane had a little rebel in him, This paints the picture of an evildoer with some good intentions at first. Before he was Sith, christened the Brotherhood of Darkness at this point, Bane was an overworked cortosis miner who had only a cursory awareness when it came to his force sensitivity. While acting Republic soldiers who are occupying his homeworld through a game of sabacc, Bane points out how the government does not care about the little guy. Don't try to sell me on your Jedi and your Republic, because that's exactly what is your Republic. You say the Sith only respect strength. Well, that's pretty much the way of things out here on the Rim, too. You look out for yourself, because nobody else will. That's why the Sith keep finding new recruits willing to join them out here. People with nothing feel like they've got nothing to lose, and if the Republic doesn't figure that out pretty soon, the Brotherhood of Darkness is going to win this war no matter how many Jedi you have leading your army. Even before he honed his power, Bane's very aura was a fingerprint influencing rooms full of selfish people to hate. When he joined the Sith army as a trooper for the Gloomwalkers, Bane kept his fellow soldiers safe by performing a mutiny against a callous and incompetent high command. This act of preservation caught the attention of a Sith Lord who sensed Bane's potential. That moment made history, but after dropping out of the Sith Academy and training himself, Bane enacts his first conspiracy. He was going to trick his fellow Sith he deemed wasteful heretics into enacting a ritual. They think the ritual would turn the tide against the Jedi, but in actuality, it kills themselves. Bane was long gone, seeking an apprentice who would enact his rule of two. Bane created this supposedly unswayable policy once it became obvious that an army of Sith wouldn't conquer the galaxy. Conspiracy was the superior weapon to brute force. The rule required only 2 Sith Lords could exist at a time, so infighting can be relegated toward a teaching matter, rather than one that would sap the strength of the team. Once the student believes they know more than their master, they will overthrow and teach a new student, on and on into a dynasty of evil that gets stronger each time. 2 there should be, no more, no less, one to embody the power, the other to crave it. It's an ironic act of rebellion. The prequel era's many portrayals of rebellion feel uncomfortable compared to the classic kind because it criticizes the supposed good guys, usually the Jedi. It's not as black and white as the rebellion in the original trilogy era. Not a dig, though. It's one reason why the prequel narratives are so divisive. There are some similarities between the Acolyte and the Darth Bane trilogy, beyond their focus on dark side protagonists. Bane and Chimere looking for an apprentice, but get disappointed by their first choice. Bane considered the backstabbing former Jedi Githany, who also wields a lightsaber like Vernestra, and then the headmaster of the academy, Cordus, before preying on a local girl named Rain, who had nothing left to lose. Rain became Darth Zana. She herself would have a disappointing first choice with Set Hearth, before going with the bounty hunter who would become Darth Cognis. Chimere thought May had initiative, but turns out she had no deep commitment. Another story, similar to this, is that the Sith conspiracy was nearly unraveled multiple times before the grand plan was anywhere close to fruition. Bane had to fight a strike team of Jedi on Tython, much like Chimere had to kill every Jedi once May got cold feet. Smilo Ren weaponized Cortosis armor to protect himself from lightsaber blows, much akin to Bane with lightsaber-resistant obelisk parasites across his massive frame, at least for a key period. But no matter how good they are at silencing those who'd expose their survival, the Sith needed scapegoats to take the blame and deliver false evidence that all is well. Zana uses her own cousin to take the fall, being adept at the horrifying power that is Force insanity. With concentrated effort, she can drive the weak-minded to become ravenously insane. There were precious few options when an investigation team was on the scent, following the lead of the Sith survivors killing at will. Although a true believer of the Jedi, Vernestra had some emotional baggage that convinces her to frame Master's soul for the killings that her dropout actually committed, turning public relations into more of a priority than doing the right thing, which plays directly into the Sith's hands. At the time, Chimere was not connected to the mythical Sith. If he had been, Vernestra would likely have taken the threat way more seriously. But in the end, the similarities between the two mediums still differ in tone. The Acolyte, is one of the darker shows on Disney+, but it's still tame compared to the rated R stuff found in the 21st century media of Legends continuity. For example, when Zana uses Force insanity during a key moment, the effects are downright Saw-esque, making Yord's mic drop neck snap not as graphic as this. Cries of terror become animal howls as her sanity was ripped apart by her ghastly visions. Her hands scratched and clawed at her own eyes, tearing them out. Blood poured down her cheeks, but even blindness couldn't save her from the nightmares crawling through what was left of her mind. One wants someone like that causing murder and mayhem in their wake. Despite the Jedi's climactic war, the Sith are still out there, poisoning the light while the light is at its zenith. The High Republic era should present where the Sith are in relations to the Nihil, and a Sith-centric story like the Acolyte is, if nothing else, on the right track. "We are all Republic" was a common mantra. The truism was the High Republic. Keep calm and carry on. That maintained hope against an evil that desired everything, whose strategy was to fragment a galaxy drunk on 800 years of peace. But can the Republic and the now waning Jedi survive another conspiracy, an evil far older and recurring than the tempestuous Nihil, an evil whispered as Sith? The prequel trilogy shall reveal the answer as no. However, by valuing the individual and engendering heroes who sacrifice their well-being for the sake of the whole, that is what the Jedi stood for. They've had to reckon with this idealized portrayal of heroism since the doom of the High Republic. This has been Michael Schlosser with Culture Slate. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe. You can also hit the bell icon and join our public Discord to stay up to date with all things Culture Slate. May the Force be with you, and beware the shadow.